Hello, loved ones. In Psalm 31, verse 24, we're encouraged to please take heart, be of good cheer. That can be challenging. And so often, I find in my life that that's because of my attention to energy and energy management. In that I can easily be sucked into the negative. That's rather what we've evolved to do, is to focus on the negative and the threats around us. And that it takes real effort and encouragement to practice the things that bring us peace, reconnect us to our sense of oneness with all of being, and give us heart and courage for this journey. So let's take a review. What in our lives today is causing us a great deal of stress? You might be thinking about what's going on where you live, what's happening in the larger world, experiences of oppression, injustice, old trauma, new trauma. Just getting by. Especially when getting by was hard enough before we had any challenges or while an economy was doing pretty well. Mental stories, energy dissipated and worry. Helplessness. Helplessness is a tremendous energy damper. It's kind of like a shunt that drains courage off. It's hard to hold on and have heart and keep courage when we're feeling helpless. How do we find that good cheer that the verse also encourages? Have you experienced any of that recently? And if not, why not? The happiness researcher Sonia Lubomayorsky has found that roughly 50% of happiness seems to be genetic. 10%, and maybe that's a little more right now given everything that's going on, is circumstantial. And then the remaining 40%, or maybe just a little bit less given everything that's going on, is within our choice. It's within stuff that we can do and cultivate. And so do we want to go ahead and gather then as much of that 40% as we can that we can influence? Or do we want to just say, no, I can't influence that, and sink down into that story of helplessness? Jack Kornfield has said on several occasions that some of us are very loyal to our suffering. And I found myself caught in that loop before, where I can be deeply attached to the story where I can't do anything, and I can't make a difference. And the only way that I've ever found to come back from that story and back into a story with greater authority and heart and greater courage is small actions at a time. Some of that is focusing on my breath and practicing my breath meditation or mindfulness practices. Some of that is taking real pleasure in a sunrise or a sunset or a starry night or a soft breeze or a bird song. Some of that might be really in turning my attention to pushing the envelope of what I can do, playing my edge, as we would say in yogic practice, where we're figuring out what's really possible. And for me, that started with being stuck in my bed and not having been able to move myself for a long time without the help of machinery, and just beginning to start to try to move a little bit more, to deepen my breath practice, to engage in more supta postures, more lying down postures of my yoga asana, and to turn and choose uplifting music and stories, because I didn't need anything to remind me that stuff would be hard or challenging. And I certainly really didn't need to go further into stories where characters were dealing with helplessness, because I had that in abundance. And so right now, what we choose to take into our lives really matters. It always has mattered. And sometimes we may not have even been aware that we were making these choices for well-being that we were making. But the more stressed we are in our environment and our situation, the more important it becomes, so that we can find heart, take heart. Now, it's like taking that heart it's not that it's some land distant from us, it's part of us, but sometimes we feel so separated from that sense of ability to do things, that courage to meet the day, that we need to take back that part of our heart that does, that can imagine, that can dream, and that can indeed lead us into greater connection and care for one another, greater generosity, greater spiritual adventure and risk faithfully to fulfill our faithful promises. I don't have a one-size-fits-all, do these 10 words 14 times a day kind of situation. I'm not a mantra master. And I have only experienced a limited amount of where that's been a really helpful thing for me. In terms of taking heart, it's been really helpful for me as I pray and as I meditate and as I go through my day to pause every once in a while and ask, which part do I choose? How do I channel my energy here? How do I nurture and increase my energy here? How do I feel more of the sense of aliveness that is available to me? More of the sense of wonder that is available to me? More of the sense of love that is available to me? These are within our choice. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's difficult, and that isn't in our choice. But there is much we can do. And that is why every fervent prayer of how long also needs a prayer of, may I keep heart. May I be of good cheer. May I choose greater kindness and love, generosity and wonder, well-being, justice and peace in this day. And that's my wish for you.